right, welcome back, guys, to episode 3 of the Misfits.
Take 2.
I was gonna say take 2.
Take 2, because I messed up on the first one. So again, welcome back to episode 3 of the Misfits podcast.
I'm Ashley.
I'm Ashley.
And I am not Ashley. I'm Sadie, and in today's episode, we are going to cover sustainable weight loss and how to be successful when dieting, when coming off of a diet. We talked a little bit about Ozempic and stuff like that in the previous episode, so how to use that as a successful tool and to have long-term progress with that. These guys are going to do a disclaimer, and I'm going to go handle my tiny human. So.
All right, so before we begin, we just want to remind our listeners that the content provided in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you've heard in this podcast. The views and opinions expressed by the host are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy position of any medical institution or organization. So, by listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that you understand this disclaimer and agree to its terms, or you turn us off. Well, I guess it's just you and me.
I still think you needed to say it just a
I
little
know.
bit faster.
I'm gonna try. You know, we were talking about those disclaimers that are just like super, super fast that you barely hear what they're even saying. But that's the point, because they don't want you to hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Side effects include 82 million different things.
Right. We want you to hear that so that you guys don't sue us. When you get massive cases.
Well, yeah. Well, and I think it's just important for people to know that, like, when we're discussing things, it's based off our experience, it's based off our knowledge, it's based off of what we have chosen to research on. But definitely, like, I would never want someone to take what we're saying and be like, well, they said I should be doing this, or I should be eating this, and I should or should not be doing this. And, so just like any other podcast, I think, take it with a grain of salt. And, we're here for information, but also entertainment. And it's fun for us too, like, to just bounce ideas off. And
like you said, a lot of like what we're talking about is one, like, we have a little bit. You'll actually have more than I do, as far as, like, knowledge and, like, healthcare and stuff like that. But, I mean, we've got years and years of experience. There's a lot of stuff that we're talking about, like, either we've done it or we've had clients that we've worked with through it, stuff like that. So
it's different when you put it into application in real life. Like, you can read it in a book, you can learn about something, but a lot of times until you experience it or through your work, you experience it with others, it's hard to put it into context. Yeah. So,
but anyway, so part 2. Welcome back. If you guys are binging these back to back, here's another hour of listening to us ramble. So thank you. But like I said, we hope you guys are enjoying our stuff and coming back and subscribing, liking, sending us questions, stuff like that you guys have.
Yeah, send the questions. I think that would be helpful.
What you guys want to actually hear and talk about. And
we have lots of things I think we can talk about. Yeah. But I think it's helpful to know what people want to hear.
Here for a little bit.
I was going to say, do you want to come sit by me so you can,
No,
I'll just be right in the middle.
I'm trying to get
cozy cuddles.
Hey. Yeah, because again, we're still recording in my lovely basement for today's episode, like I said, and the other one. We're doing these back to back, so I still have my little chitlins at home. That's why I had to dip out. One of them was
dip out.
Needed help carrying her load of books up the stairs. But anyway, so today we're gonna talk about, like I said a little bit before, sustainable weight loss and how to be successful in living a healthier lifestyle, regardless of the means that you use to.
Right. I think if we just throw it out there that, okay, if you're gonna organically diet or use other tools, fine. This can be good information, regardless of which way you choose. So
yes, and if you're using to, because Duncan, you're a little bit more pro Ozempic and stuff like that than Nelson and I are. But again, you also use it more in the healthcare setting, and so you're seeing a lot more people that genuinely need it, whereas Nelson and I aren't necessarily in that same setting. So we're seeing a little bit more of the other side, which is good, because that gives us kind of a well-rounded viewpoint for everyone.
I don't want to discredit or not empathize with okay, so let me back up a little bit. I think we've all seen people try to diet, and it's hard. Like, bottom line, it's hard. And I don't want
have a good why
right.
to what you're doing.
And I don't want to discredit people's frustrations, because how frustrating would it be for someone to say, like, I would love to use a tool like Ozempic, but I can't afford it. And so here I am, like, really putting in the work and trying and all these things, and I'm failing, and how discouraging that is. And then to see other people that are able to get the medication.
I've had people make that comment to me, like, not to name names or whatever, but I do have someone that's close to me that is a little bit disheartened because, again, they are working really, really hard to do it organically, and they are doing the right things. They are good whole foods, good solid diets, good exercise routine, stuff like that. It's I would not say older, but like someone in like midlife in like their 50s, and when you get aged up, it is harder. And that person has made comments where they've said it is frustrating that they are working their tail off, and they know people that are taking Ozempic not necessarily for more or less the properly needed medical reasons, and they're not having to work at all, and they're losing the weight. So I know that, like you said, there are some people that have that frustrations, but like I've spoken with her and talked with her a little bit too. It's like, hey, I get you're frustrated, and I get, yes, that person is going from 0 to 100 a lot faster than what you see, but here's the deal: the way that you're doing it is sustainable and is going to lead to more of that lifelong progress and sustainability and positivity, whereas just from what you're describing, this other person is not. So if they happen to come off of it and they have not made the proper lifestyle changes, chances are they're going to rebound pretty hard, and they're going to be one of those people that has a lot of the negatives that we talked about.
I mean, bottom line is, if you're dieting or using GLPs, if you don't change your behavior, no amount of medication is going to change it. Yes, you'll lose weight because you're not eating, but if you don't change the behavior, so either keep decreasing the calories, your body at some point will say, hey, we're not doing that anymore, or teach your body to use up more calories. If you don't do one of those things, it doesn't matter how much medication. You will tap out on the dosing. It will stop working, and you're out of options.
Yeah, I would much rather be able to eat and, be able to have, quote, fun meals or, refeeds or cheat meals or whatever you want to call it or say it, or, be able to go out with friends and, like we've done before, and go out and have pizza or go to a pizza fest or...
Well, that's why we work out, so we can eat more.
Exactly, yeah, but be able to do that and it not be super, super detrimental because, oh my god, all of a sudden my body's getting all this food it's not used to. Where, I might be a little bit bloated the next day because this food my body's not used to, but it's not going to be the end all, and I'm probably going to have a killer workout afterwards. Like, that's what I love about refeeds and, quote, cheats or off.
And even just the fact of... So I think people need to understand, too, that no matter how you diet, at some point you're going to go into a plateau.
Yes.
Because your body recognizes that, hey, like, I can't keep cutting the calories. I mean, if your body didn't compensate, it sounds morbid, but we would just die. And so, like we talked about in the first episode, so we don't have to get back into it, but your body does these other mechanisms to try to preserve you in this homeostasis or balanced. So it's normal to have plateaus. And, people need to understand that that's okay. Like, this is your body trying to adapt.
Yeah.
But you have to find other ways to get through that. And so we talked about things like reverse dieting, where you slowly introduce more food, keep doing the strength training, maintain your scale weight, and if you're getting stronger, eating more, even though the scale weight's staying the same, your body is still doing, it's still changing because your muscles are now working. And
or even if the scale weight goes up,
that's okay.
It's nothing to be afraid of.
Especially
I tell my clients,
female,
I tell my clients all the time, put the scale in the closet.
Right.
Don't even bring it out. Leave it alone. Because if you look good, you feel good, your clothes are fitting better, that's what matters. Scale weight, that don't matter.
Right. If you're getting stronger and eating more, that's in the right direction. And then, like we've seen, like when we're in a building phase, it's kind of like reverse dieting.
Yeah.
And then that way you have more tricks in your pocket to pull when it's time to cut. So for that person who reversed, now when we start adding in cardio again, now when we start pulling back food, their body is likely to respond.
Yeah, whereas you can, like...
But you've got to switch up something. If somebody's in a plateau, you can't just keep pulling the calories because the body will just keep adapting, and metabolically, they're just not in a good position now.
Right. So, so I mean, people probably have, you know, okay, we guys talking about all this stuff, but how do I actually get there? How do I implement this type of stuff? You know, what are foods I should be eating, or how should I be eating, or how should I even figure out how to eat, or, you know, what should we be doing for a workout? Getting touch a little bit on the last episode, you know, again, speaking from, like, females and, like, diet culture and stuff like that, we're always taught is you just keep cutting food, you eat salads, and you go do as much cardio as you can. Mm-hmm. And we talked about this a little bit off air, but that type of dieting and, you know, with the Ozempic or stuff like that, when you're just not eating and not fueling your body, is you're actually going to put yourself in a much worse position. You're going to be what we call like that skinny fat, you know. Mm-hmm. Yes, your scale weight went down and you might be smaller, but your actual body composition is in a much worse place. Way less muscle mass. You're going to have more of that, you know, fat to muscle ratio, and that comes with a whole
like metabolically you're in no
issues.
Better position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you have to preserve that muscle.
Yeah. So just speaking from me, and what I've dealt with, because I've done, I mean, I grew up with, like, a mom who she actually got me into fitness, like I talked about before. Grew up, you know, watching her do, like, the exercise videos, stuff like that, and all the different kinds of diets. And I kind of fell into that diet culture as well. So, I mean, before I was working with the coach that I was working with now, I mean, I've done, you name it, probably that type of diet, anywhere from, like, vegan to keto to carnivore to counting macros to fasting to if it fits your macros, like, you know, the super fasting and
cabbage. Remember the cabbage soup?
I can't even remember. Oh, and this is just again, I mean, speaks like girls in diet culture. I was in high school, and I can't remember what it was, but it was like a super, like, 800 or 900 calorie diet. But you would have, like, these drops. Oh, it was like I don't remember. But it was some, like, fad diet thing. And the drops were basically like, so you're supposed to be like your filler calories, so, like, you weren't, like, you know what I mean, like,
you realize you lost, like, the weight because you were eating 900
calories.
Right.
Yes. Oh my god.
Well,
I was trying to be an athlete on top of doing that diet.
Well, and it's scary because
it was awful.
You know, I think the culture in general, whether it's social media or whether it's, you know, that is what we're displaying as, and this is nothing new.
No.
People, like, this, you know, what society portrays as.
Are
you trying to look it up?
Something, yeah, some kind of
trying to fact check.
But I think we mess
my mom would
with
know.
We mess with these young girls.
Like a droplet.
It was something like you would buy, not like Beachbody or something like that.
Right.
It wasn't, but it was like some program thing you would buy. Anyway,
but I think that's just a good example of you talked about doing that when you were in high school and how, you know, how.
Well, shoot,
we have these other issues with high school age kids with body dysmorphia, and now.
And I was an athlete. I was by no means like not, and I was a swimmer. Swimmers,
but I think there's that pressure as an athlete. I mean, look at your gymnasts. Like, historically, your athlete groups that are at higher risk for things like eating disorders and
gymnastics,
and gymnasts,
dance and stuff like that is
right, cheer,
just awful for that type of stuff. And it's sad because especially as gymnastics, I did it when I was younger, and my oldest does it now. That is realistically a sport that, I mean, you need to be at the top of your nutrition game, everything, because you have such a high injury risk. And this kind of ties in everything. When you drop your calories and your micro and macronutrients that low, you're at such a greater risk for sickness, injury, lack of recovery. Like, just everything drops with it, and that's hormones,
your
stuff like that.
Your immune system.
Yeah.
Your mood.
Everything is just so
libido.
much. Yeah,
libido.
God. Yeah.
Like, if you prep for a show, you best be ready to never have sex for like a good 3 months.
Yeah, towards the end of it, awful. But yeah, I mean, with that too, like you said, you know, the people who are doing these fat diets and not dieting properly, especially that's a big thing is their hormones. Guys, like your testosterone is tanking. We'll talk about it later, but especially Duncan and I are huge proponents. You talked about it a little bit as well, being interested. The testosterone for women is really picking up a lot of momentum. And I know everyone's like, ooh, women, testosterone. Okay, but you realize that's one of the most natural things that women make. If we don't have testosterone, we literally can't make anything else. Right.
But I think it still circles back to if your diet is not in check, it's going to affect all these other things.
So thyroid, stuff like that, like these are your, like you said, your mood, all of that, libido. These are really big things that if you are not dieting or exercising in a sustainable way, these are all things that are getting massively impacted. And for the women that say, I just want to tone up, I want to tone up. Okay, well, if you're dieting and you're cutting, and you're doing nothing but cardio, you're not going to quote tone up because you're not
ever building muscle.
No, you're not going to have the fuel.
You're going to lose muscle.
Yes, you're not having the fuel to one, even do your workout or cardio, but you're not having the fuel to build that muscle to create that toned look that you want. So I think that's huge.
I think people also don't realize that you can't spot train. So, for example, you can't
the bat flaps. I want to get rid of this.
Or you can't do sit-ups and sit-ups and sit-ups and expect that you're going to get a six-pack. You'll build your abdominal muscles, but until you get rid of the fluff over top,
right?
And you can't target train anyone. You can't fat target train any one area. No. So all the ads that you see on TV or on ads
even
on
the gels, all that stuff.
Yeah, it just doesn't work that way. No. And I think that it's a really misconception that people don't understand.
What do you guys think about waist trainers? What are your thoughts on those?
That's a great thought.
Since we're on like fad
stuff,
like spot training stuff.
So I
because I know you use one.
I like them. So here's the deal though. I don't use it 24/7. It's not something I wear 24/7. I don't wear it when I train. It's something that if I'm doing like cardio or stuff around the house, I'll try and wear it anywhere from like 3 to 5 hours. Whereas if I get up in the morning, I put it on, I have my breakfast, I do like stuff around the house or my fasted cardio or whatever. That's real. It sounds like a lot, but it's super easy to knock that out. And for me, so having 2 kids, I feel like I did have a bigger waist. I was also an athlete that had, especially powerlifting, I had a more of that boxy waist. In my division, which is figure, you want the really tiny waist. I feel like it has made a little bit of difference. It is not the end all be all. To me, it is the cherry on top of the sundae. It's not something I would say is going to make or break the bank.
So what do you think a waist trainer actually does for you though?
So for the waist trainer, what it does is it essentially help. Think of like your corset, like when people like way back when in the olden days would do like corset. Yes, I mean it does. You wear it long enough, you do corset training, you do get a smaller waist. And the way it does that, and it's not the way people think, it's not spot training, anything like that. What it's doing, and Duncan, you might have a little bit more knowledge behind it, and correct me if I'm wrong, more or less it is atrophying your side obliques, or whatever the proper term for those is. So it's atrophying your side obliques, but it's also you wear it super, super tight, and it's causing your deep core to be in a tightened state, which is helping bring all of that in. Which again, I don't wear it all the time because I still want to have an overall strong core, which is why I don't wear it when I train, because I would like some side abs. I personally, just aesthetically, I like them. I think they're hot. Like I just like side abs. Like you know what I mean. So it's not something I want to wear when I'm training, and a lot of professional athletes and bodybuilders do. You see it more in the women. It's not something I do, and that's just me personally. But it's, basically it atrophies your side abs, which is going to give you a little bit more of that waist. And obviously it's going to give you super big waist, bigger lats, bigger back, stuff like that, the illusion, all of that. Yes, I know that. But it has helped strengthen and tighten my inner core, and having 2 C-sections, they tore my inner core up. I had no core. Like, I couldn't even get up off of the couch. So deep core work for me has been huge in shrinking my waist. That's why I like to wear it, and why I feel like it's kind of been the cherry on top for me. And it's, whether it's giving me 2 to 3% extra edge, Okay, long term, that's 2 to 3%. Awesome, cool. If I can do something that's going to give me 2 to 3%, that's literally nothing other than me wearing a tight waist trainer for X amount of hours a day. Okay, I'm willing to do that, and it's something that again I feel like has helped and benefited me. But it's not going to make you super super skinny.
Yeah.
And another reason I like wearing it during the summer with my cardio is I feel like it makes me sweat more. Which I like, I like that. I just like.
So do
I
you
just sweat a
think
little
it
bit
helps
more.
with fat loss?
I'll give my pros and cons.
That was my
I don't
question.
I don't think it's what's making you lose fat
Because
it's not,
a lot of women think it's for fat loss. So that's why I asked you on what your opinions were.
So I did use a waist trainer like all the time, like training all the hours, waking hours. So I was a little bit different than how you used it.
Also, and different divisions, different
divisions, and all the things you said I would agree with. That atrophy in the muscles, I did wear it when I was strength training, even especially with compound movements, because with compound movements that use your core. Yes. Well, having that on takes away your need to use your own core because it acts for you. So trying to atrophy.
I guess when you do heavy compounds,
same idea.
Same thing. Yeah.
So trying to atrophy the muscles. When I look back, so I think waist trainers has kind of been on that pendulum of like they're really hot and trendy, and then they're not. And from what I found is it did help. It helped me to be more conscientious of keeping your posture and your transverse abdominis, that inner core muscle. Yes. So the pros for me was it did help me to be mindful of that all the time. So I always kept my core super tight. It helped me when that transgressed over to posing, because I was so used to keeping in that tightness, because if you let your gut hang out, it was uncomfortable. Yeah. So that helped me to also then be mindful in my posing to keep everything really tight. It helped me work on my breathing. Now I would say overall, when I look back, I'm like, guys, no, you're not getting fat loss. No. You do sweat more, but the problem I ran into that maybe someone might not think of is that skin that's constantly under the waist trainer, because there's always a little bit of moisture there, that skin is actually more hydrated. And so when it came to tanning, there was an issue with the way your skin would take in the tanning.
Oh, for me, because you're wearing it all the time.
You're wearing it all the time. Yeah. So that skin now in that region has just a little bit different, I can't think of the word I want to use, but it took the tan differently. Yeah. Because it was just better moisturized. So that was one thing I noticed. I had a lot of GI issues. I felt like I always had heartburn. I feel like I had to really be mindful about the way I sat, the way I had to be mindful about eating. So I had to eat very small amounts more frequently, because otherwise my gut would just... Yeah. So there was just some of those things.
But again, the difference between wearing it all the time, whereas... And I usually, again, wear mine a lot of time in the morning in a more of a fasted state. I don't have a lot of food.
What I think would be better to educate people on is doing things like vacuums and doing things.
The core work has made a huge difference.
And there is work called low pressure training, LPT, low pressure training, and that is just guided work on how to work on core strength without adding pressure inside your pelvic and abdominal cavity. Yeah. So think about like when you're doing a sit-up, if you're not working on your breathing, what happens? You have that air trapped in your abdominal cavity, and now you're pushing against it. That's high pressure in your abdominal cavity. Yeah. So LPT training, that's just teaching you how to strengthen, blow the air out, work on things like planks, work on movements where you have decreased that pressure. Can also be very helpful for C-sections and post-vaginal deliveries. And when you're trying to bring the abdominal muscles back and you're trying to not have this big pressure in the pelvic floor.
Or like that coning, And that's the thing too, is, a lot of, again, weight loss, obviously losing weight will make your core smaller. But for some of our bigger girls or girls that have had kids or had a lot of extra skin, stuff like that. And I learned this, and I should have done it more after my first one. But one, like having like the pelvic floor rehab exercise, stuff like that made a big difference. And deep core is what made my abs in general pop more, and is what gave me a smaller waist and a smaller just a more of an hourglass figure, and it helps get rid of that mom pooch. And I feel like a lot of females, that's when they want to lose a lot of weight, they're still losing weight, but they're like, oh, I still have a pooch, still have a pooch. Okay, well, that's because you don't have a deep core. You need to work your deep core.
I think it's important too that we let men and women know that some of this is genetic. And I will say, like, even at my leanest, the leanest I've ever been in a competition, I still never had a six-pack. And I think part of that is just genetically, you know, whether it's how my skin is, or whether it's how my fat is distributed, or my individual structure. You know, how many of these, we were just talking about this a little bit ago too, you know, when someone gains weight or loses weight, think of how their body shape changes. And then, you know, everybody's a little different. So I think sometimes we also get these misconceptions based off of what we see in other people. Or, you know, I see Nelson getting super lean and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, look at her waist and it's so tiny. And I'm like, my waist never gets like that. Like, I think we end up playing this compare game because we forget that we're all individuals,
and different body types, and
and
I'm
different
tall, and
prep types, Like I'm prepping way different than both of you guys. You know, you did a reverse into your show, so we're gonna look completely different because I'm only doing dry carbs. That's it. Yeah. You know, whereas you're not. You did what, beef the day of your show?
So the day of my show, because I was able to reverse and my next prep could be totally different. And that's the thing too, is not every single prep for every single show. Even you prep for show 1, show 2, show 3, all those preps could be different. It's just how your body's reacting.
Because your body's a science experiment.
Yes, but I mean,
you guys are also very different sizes too. Like you are tall, you are not. So I think, you know, the take-home message to, you know, is people, give yourself some grace. You know,
and not everyone's weight loss is going to be the same
and to look the same, right?
Not what everyone's eating. You know, your body might do great with fish. Someone else's body might do awful with fish. You know, it's just,
and your carb sources too.
And carbs. Again, you know, some people are able to have, you know, bread and kind of more of like your gluten carbs, and some people, their bodies are just like, it kind of makes me a little bloated or inflamed, and that's.
Did you guys ever have issues with food intolerances?
I think you do a little bit too. Which you
now
speak to,
I do.
Egg whites for me, during my last prep, we had to cut them for a little bit, because they were just like, I would eat them and my body was just like, we're not down. So we just switched to a different source, and I think we just switched to fish. So I had fish for breakfast, which was super awesome.
I did that.
But yeah, I mean,
not last year, but back in 22.
But it gets to a point where in my prep, I mean, it's fish and asparagus for damn near every meal. And that's just part of the game. But again, yeah, so a little bit with eggs for me every once in a while, and I think that's pretty common with people who eat a lot of eggs. I mean, but otherwise, for the most part, like, I'm able to have, you know, like breads. I do like bagels, different kinds. I do white rice, brown rice, sweet potatoes, regular potatoes. Like, I have a, knock on wood, a pretty varied diet. I also have a lot of red meat in my diet. I know a lot of people don't like red meat or can't have red meat because it kind of creates like some bloating and some issues. Luckily, I'm not one of those people. So, yeah, for the most part, I have a lot of red meat. But
I think what we're probably going to find for all three of us is that we don't have a lot of food intolerances, but...
Nelson, you're a little bit with eggs just recently, right?
Yeah, after prep.
Yeah.
I think I was just eating so many of it that my body had just had enough of it.
But how many people, I guess where I'm getting at is, for the most part, we eat pretty darn clean. Like, limited processed foods.
Cheese and dairy for me, I guess, would be a super... oh my god, dude, my body is like, nah. And then you don't want to be around me for, like, at least the next 24 hours.
But, like, how many people do we hear talk about, like, oh, you know, I'm bloated all the time. And it's like, sometimes I just want to say, look at what you're eating.
Yes.
Like, all the processed food. And if someone truly can't figure out, you know, what is bothering them, telling them to, okay, cut out everything, choose one meat, one carb source, one fat source. See how you do. Then
for
start adding.
Just do that for a week.
Right.
It's not the end of the world.
Right. And a lot of them just
can't.
For 4
months.
Right.
Yeah. And I think, so with that, I think that's another big thing that when people hear dieting, I think that's what they fear, is you're going to take, you're going to take everything that I love away. I can't have all this stuff.
Well, and see, there's that misconception again. They think that since we eat clean, that we're dieting. No, that's how you should be eating. You should not be eating all this processed crap.
How did our ancestors eat?
Exactly. You know, it's like, how do you feel day in and day out? Like shit? You're eating like shit.
Yeah.
We're eating clean. We feel great every single day. That's not dieting. That's putting fuel in our bodies that we need.
And you can be, you know, or I shouldn't say be, but you can have fun foods.
Absolutely.
And so, like, sushi. All sushi is fish, rice, and a fat. That's fantastic. If you like sushi, you can eat sushi. If you like chicken, there is 1,000 ways to make chicken. You don't have to have baked plain chicken. Smoke it, grill it. You can do like
I have plain baked chicken, but that's just me.
I love mine in the crock pot when it gets almost like mushy. Hubs doesn't like that, but I kind of like it when it gets a little mushy and you can like take the bear claws.
I could say your favorite word right now.
No.
Like
juicy. How's
juicy.
That?
Oh, I like that.
Okay, juicy.
I love juicy chicken.
But yeah, I mean, like, people ask me, like, how do you eat chicken all the time? Because, one, I've learned to season it, and that's one thing, too, like, prep and bodybuilding has taught me how to cook very well. I genuinely enjoy my food. Even my kids.
Oh, absolutely. I do, too.
My food almost.
And mine's plain. I don't season mine like you. Mine is literally just plain chicken with cookie seasoning, and I love it.
Yeah. See, and again, you could, like I said, you can smoke it. You can change different seasonings. And so another thing, too, little hack. So if you feel like you are making a lot of like your protein, your chicken, and you just get tired of the taste of it, season it just a little bit, like the plain seasoning while you're cooking it, and then when you go to eat it, you can add different seasonings after it's already cooked. Like that's not, you don't have to follow rules. You know, everyone's like, oh my god, I can add seasoning afterwards. Yeah, if you want.
Okay, what are your thoughts about? Because I go both ways too. The sugar free, the
dressings,
sauces. Just dressings, the sauces, the packets.
They got low calorie sauces. I use them.
Yeah, you don't have to have a sugar.
It's not the end of the world if you go and get a 10-calorie sauce. It's not the end of the world.
And if you know what, if you adding a tablespoon, okay, don't dump sauce on your food, you know, but if you adding a tablespoon or so of sauce on whatever you're eating helps you eat that meal, fantastic. Do it. Like, you don't have to follow these rules.
So obsessed with the sugar-free stuff forever. In fact, this is a horrible thing to even admit. I think the first episode I was like, oh, I'll tell you guys this later, but no joke, we used to buy on Subscribe and Save a box of 2,000 Splenda packets. Now, I'm not kidding. This is how bad I think part of it was I had this never-ending craving for sugar. And this was for years. Yeah. And I would put 5 packets of Splenda in one coffee. And I drink a lot of coffee.
Was your gut?
There you go. So all these years, I was so, the sugar-free puddings, the sugar-free syrups, everything, constant artificial crap.
Yes.
And then I wondered why I was constantly bloated. Yes. And the gum, constant gum. So I have cut all of that out. In fact, I maybe will use one packet, maybe in a coffee. And, I can't even tell you last time I did. Yeah. Sugar-free pudding, if I'm doing like a protein ice cream. Yeah, I'll do that, but I don't do any of the syrups anymore unless I go to a coffee shop and I get sugar-free whatever.
Yeah, mine is big in coffees.
Not at home.
Yeah.
We don't have any of the sugar-free sauces. I don't know if you guys remember, but I used to keep sugar-free ketchup in my purse.
Yes. Because you were that one day. I'm like,
yeah.
Do you literally have ketchup in your purse right now?
Yeah. Sugar-free barbecue. Like, I was so obsessed with that stuff, you guys. Yeah. And now I have completely cut it out, and I can't tell you the last time I had gut issues. So I think that's something, too, to keep in mind, that if people are constantly consuming the artificial stuff like that,
the sugar-free,
it can impact your gut.
The actual sugar stuff.
And their studies show that the way it tells your brain the sweetness, that is also similar pathways as when you're eating regular sugar.
Yeah.
And so your body can actually respond in a similar manner by increasing your blood sugar, even though what you had was actually a sugar substitute. Yeah. So there has been documented. So
with that, so since we're talking about sustainability stuff like that, again, another tool. So
moderation. Yeah.
Yes, moderation. You do not have, and
You don't
I
need
was
30 packs of Splenda.
when I first started. Yes, it was a way for me to help learn how to like the foods that I was eating, because I went from your standard American diet to eating more of your whole clean foods. I did use a lot of the sugar-free sauces, stuff like that, and now I have them. But I don't use them a lot. It's just every once in a while.
Right.
Or like
yeah.
if I want, so we have like a low sodium sugar-free teriyaki. So if I'm like, okay, I want like a teriyaki chicken pineapple rice meal, okay, then I'll use it. Or
Right.
if I want to use like the sugar-free, like I think it's like Polynesian, like G Hughes or whatever.
Hughes,
Yeah. G Hughes. I like his stuff.
That one is really good. But again, I am putting just a little bit on there. But I've got to the point where I just don't. I like and I have a lot of oils, so that oils make my foods taste good.
What was the brand? I can't even think of it now. And I used to buy it all the time. It's supposed to be like zero calorie. I can see the bottles.
They're like kind of like a taller, skinny.
Yeah, and it had like kind of a flower look or garden look on the front. It's gonna bother me. It was.
I know what you're talking about.
But anyway, I had so many of those.
Sugar-free sauces.
I would seriously dump that stuff on my food. And now I had some, it's been a while, but the last time I tried it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this tastes like pure chemical.
And it is, yes,
Pure
it is.
chemical.
If you're going from like super, super sugary to all of a sudden that, it is a drastic, like, again, with the coffees, I use the sugar-free syrups.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, oh my god, I can taste it, that's sugar-free. I'm to the point now, if I have actual sugar or something, I'm like
too much.
It's
sugar-free
too
or
much.
zero
It
calorie?
was 0 calorie.
Okay.
You know what is kind of good is, and actually I think you were the one that I first saw years ago, was like the 5 calorie Hershey syrup.
Ooh,
I didn't even know that was a thing. Now, disclaimer, it does not taste exactly like the regular stuff, but it is a pretty good alternative, especially if you just need like a little drizzle.
Yeah, so I'm just going to make everyone probably gag, because it's my coworker's favorite when I do this at work.
Or your
prep.
egg whites?
Egg whites. And no,
That
this
one?
is from, did you find it?
Yes, Walden Farms.
Oh,
of
there you go.
course, duh.
So this is something that my coach does with a lot of her clients. So with egg whites, I have a lot of egg whites right now, and they can be a lot of volume. And it sounds bad, but it's like it's too much volume right now because I'm in a building phase, I'm in a bulking phase, so I'm eating a lot. So with the egg whites, a lot of times I drink them. People think it's disgusting.
I
It
used
doesn't-
to.
But
doesn't
they're
taste like
pasteurized.
anything.
They're in a carton.
Yes,
Like,
the carton-
I
the
think
carton
you
egg
have
whites.
to
Yes,
be
yes.
specific that like
Yes.
she's not just cracking open eggs and
No.
like drinking
That
the
is
egg
a little
whites. They're the
Arnold.
pasteurized
No, yes,
egg
the
whites
the
in a carton.
pasteurized, yep, in the carton. And honestly, I just measured out. Some people add water. I don't. And I just do like 1 or 2 squirts of that sugar-free Hershey's. Sometimes, if I don't have it, I'll just drink it anyway, and I'll just chug it. And it, to me, tastes like a skimmed chocolate milk. So that is a super, 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 super easy, quick, efficient way
And
to
you can
get
also add
a
it in
lot
with
of protein.
your protein shakes
protein,
as well.
right.
Yes.
Did you guys
or
ever,
cereal, use it for milk in your cereal?
Did you ever try muscle
I can't
egg?
eat cereal.
Like at expos and stuff, the muscle egg.
Muscle egg is
So
really,
good.
really good.
It's just expensive,
It's
you guys.
expensive, but that's
Different
another one. If you
flavors.
can afford it, yes.
Oh gosh,
Fantastic way to get a lot of protein. So eggs are not bad for you. Eggs are so good for you. If anyone tells you eggs are bad for you, backhand them. They're
Yeah.
not. Eggs are really, really
so good.
good
The people
for you.
telling you that eggs are bad for you are also the same people that are eating half a jar of peanut butter every day and
For their
telling you
protein.
that they're getting their protein in.
Yes. So like you said, and if you can tolerate it, if you can't, that's fine. Like you said, you get to a point where I can't have eggs either. Some people can't. But right now, because I do have a lot of protein, and it's just easier and more efficient for me, I do a lot of egg whites. Like you said, you can mix it in a protein shake. You can mix it in a smoothie. They are super, super easy to get a lot of protein. A lot
It's
in there.
pure protein.
And I
There's
think-
0 carbs, 0
Yeah.
fats. Like, it's pure protein.
Yes.
And really, like, I think when we're talking to people about, okay, here we're telling you to hit your protein. I think it's important for people to know that if they're like, well, how much protein? Easy way to remember is a gram of protein per pound of desired body weight.
Yes.
So if you're 150 pounds, shoot for 150 grams of protein. Now, if you're not hitting anywhere near that, work your way up to that, or you could have stomach issues.
Yes.
And I think it's hard to meet your protein.
So again, a lot of women struggle to meet.
Right. And
Protein.
you have to strategically plan it. And another thing that I would suggest too to people is you have to start early. not have to. I never want to say you have to do anything. It would be helpful to start early in the day, because if you're already having trouble meeting your protein goals and you don't start eating till lunchtime, now you've just decreased your window.
All that food. So,
which can also cause bloat, GI distress, and then people don't like that, and they're like, well, protein makes me bloated.
Because you're smashing all of it within 5 hours. Yeah, spread it out. So, okay, good protein sources. Obviously, we touched on egg whites. Eggs are a decent one. Again, eggs are going to have some of your fats, though.
Let's just go around and say, like, what your favorites. Egg whites?
Favorite? Okay, so I guess I do like to drink the egg whites, but otherwise, honestly, I like chicken because it's such a versatile protein. You can do so much with it. I do a lot of chicken.
And you don't have a lot of your added fats and carbs with that either. So it's a pure protein.
Again, I have just a difference. I have a higher fat diet than Nelson does. And that's just because that's just how we just eat differently. Even in my prep, I actually did more of a higher fat, lower, and I did carb cycling. I carb cycle also, which means some like training days I have higher carbs, and I have rest days. My rest days I have lower carbs. That works really well for my body, and we just experimented and just found that that's what my body and my lifestyle does well for. So again, and that mimics kind of more natural. Like you have higher carb days, lower carb days. My protein stays pretty consistent, and my fats play around a little bit as well. But I have higher fat, so I have a lot of chicken. I also have a lot of red meat in mine, and I do not have a lot of fish right now. When I'm in prep, I have a lot of white fish. But those are just super easy proteins, like I said, and those are very ones that you can do a ton of different things with. Chicken tip, because a lot of people don't like dried chicken. They feel like when they reheat it, it's kind of gross. What we do, because we smoke ours, you can do, well, no matter how you cook it just below. So when we do to about 145 internal temp, and then we pull it, and whether I shred it or dice it or whatever, however I want to do it. And again, how you prep your chicken also can make it easier to eat too. Like I do mostly shredded chicken right now. I just like it better. That's what I want, so that's what I'm going to eat is shredded chicken. We have a shredder, we shred it up, and then when I reheat it, then it's at an actual good temp to eat, and it stays juicy. It doesn't get dried out, and it still tastes good. So if you struggle with chicken, that's a good way. Just kind of undercook it a little bit, and then it's not as awful when you reheat it, and it lasts just a little bit longer. So,
right. Nelson, what's one of your protein tips, or what do you like?
For proteins?
Or what do you like?
Right now I'm just doing chicken. During prep, I do nothing but tilapia, and I don't do anything crazy. I'm plain Jane. I just bake it because it's the easiest, because I eat so much.
Well, then you can
food.
do so many at once.
Yeah.
So I'm not doing any type of prep or planning, and no, I'm just living my food life. We eat a lot of steak. Sorry.
We do on the weekends.
But you know what else I really enjoy doing is salmon in the air fryer. And it takes really it's like 10 minutes. So we do that quite a bit. When you were talking about carb cycling, fun fact, back in like 2019, earlier than that, I did an entire year of strict keto. Like strict keto as in 85% of my macros were fat, 15% was protein, and 5% was carbs. The reason I did that was because it was more of an experiment. So I was not really competing at the time. It was purely for me to just experiment. And I had the ketone monitor. So I would actually prick my finger multiple times a day, get the ketone level. I would get my blood sugar level. I did the urine strips. I mean, I did this like perfectly. Like when you're talking about doing intermittent fasting, I did that for 3 years. Did a 12-8 window, or 16-8 window. Anyway, back to the keto. What I found is I actually felt better. I felt so good. My strength, I had great strength. It took a little bit, like I would say it took like a solid 2 to 3 weeks for me to feel good. But once I was in that, I felt super good. The bottom, or the con to it is when I took side-by-side pictures, like after about a year. So even though I felt really good, I was improving my strength in the gym. So I was pulling more weight. I was stronger. My side-by-side pictures looked zero different. So that was why, even though I felt good and all the other benefits from it, I truly felt like I didn't have the cravings. I felt very satiated after meals. Like, I just felt really good. It's hard to explain, but I wasn't getting the size. And so that's why I went back to kind of a traditional, bodybuilder where you increase the protein, the big carbs, or, but then I had more GI issues like the bloating, the gas, like
it's a game. You got
the cravings, and all
Yep.
that stuff came back, and that was kind of discouraging. But so when I hear people talk about keto, I do feel like I have like a true insight. I did, and
you weren't just smashing cheese and bacon.
No, and you have to be careful because if you're truly doing a full keto, you actually do have to watch your protein intake because your protein will, in different pathways, but it essentially ends up turning to glucose. Not turning to glucose, but for the sake of just understanding better.
So we're trying to hit some protein. So we'll talk
gram per pound.
So gram per pound. So let's talk carbs. I feel like carbs are the easiest, like most readily available, especially processed foods are such just high carb, but it's trash, garbage carbs. So what's a good carb amount? And so this also changes. So this isn't a blanket, like different phases, different bodies, stuff like that. This is a good skeleton numbers, I would say, that we're giving you guys to shoot for. Yeah? Would you say?
I don't think we should give protein is pretty much like data to say like this is what you need.
Yeah.
Carbs
are
you
hard.
don't need carbs. Like from a no. Like now we eat carbs, but what I'm saying is that your body actually does not need carbs. That's why people can do these keto type diets, because from a physiologic standpoint, that is the one macronutrient that your body actually doesn't need. If you didn't eat carbs, it could use fat, it could use protein in other ways.
We're not talking about ideal. We're talking about in the world starvation.
Right.
I was I feel like complete shit if I don't have carbs.
I do too.
But eventually, if you didn't eat carbs, your body would adjust.
So we're talking about like stranded on an island. If you just eat some fats and protein, you would survive.
Eventually, you would feel better. That's what I did for a year to show. And there's enough data.
Yes.
I think
but realistically, carbs. We want carbs.
Right. And I think there's enough data behind fat to say that, fat at least 50 or above, especially for women, is good for hormonal support.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to give numbers on carbs because that can also be very dependent on someone's energy and what their expenditure is.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we feel about like a percentage, or better yet, let's give some
like
good carb sources
options
and
right.
carb options, and
yeah, because carbs, that's going to be really hard.
It's so dependent on what you're doing.
Because what I do is not what you do.
Right.
Yes.
So for what I do, I'm at 200 grams of protein, 200 grams of carbs. Day in, day out, every single day. Mine don't fluctuate because I'm trying to pack on mass. So with that, I'm lifting heavy. I am continuously breaking records. So that's mine. Hers is probably different.
Yeah, I carb cycle, like I said. So, but I have an active rest day and a rest day, and on those I have a little bit, but not much, lower carbs.
Guess what my highest carb amount was, like, leading up to peak week when I was in bikini. I think it just gives a really great example of how everybody is so different.
For some reason, 80 sticking out in my mind.
300.
I was gonna say like 250s.
Yeah, so I was at 300 carbs, 75 fat, and 175 protein. Mm-hmm. So I think it just goes to show that your carbohydrate, actually your entire intake, can be so dependent on so many other things.
But
your
look
genetics.
How long it took you to build up to that level, because you.
If I were to eat 300 carbs right now, I would be walking around like I would put on body fat. Yeah. So part of that is what you have adjusted and worked up to.
Yes. So good carb sources. I said easy ones like so for me personally, I do right now I have white rice and brown rice, and if I'm not even going to get into the details on white versus brown debate.
So white rice, brown rice. Okay.
Either
Simple.
one. If you know what, for people, if you like white rice, do white rice. If you like brown rice, do brown rice. Plain simple. And I do sweet potatoes and like the little baby reds. I have one of those. Carbs I've done in this past. I've done like Ezekiel bread. I like a lot. I've done like the rice noodles. So those, it's essentially just like rice, just in a noodle form, like Asian food.
I used to do cream of rice.
Cream of rice is another good one.
I did oats.
Oats. So what I like about oats is I feel like they keep
bougie.
me. I feel like the oats keep me fuller longer. But I feel heavy on oats. They stay in my gut a little bit longer.
I usually had to pull those.
Yep, I don't get them
the closer to a show. I used to
I don't have
just for bloating reasons.
Like I said, different kinds of potatoes. I mean, and especially with the potatoes, again, you can like slice them up and air fry them. Boom. You want French fries? There's your French fries.
Yeah.
Slice them up, air fry them.
And I think just sticking to a couple different sources. I think that's part of the reason why people get so overwhelmed when they start talking diet stuff.
Eat what you like. If you like rice, do rice. If you like potatoes, eat potatoes. If you like grits, do grits. If you like oatmeal, do oatmeal.
Don't you think it's a lot easier to manipulate your food? And, Nelson has kind of addressed this too. The less options you have to work with, the easier it is to manipulate when you're trying to make changes. And so I think what people get overwhelmed is because we have so many food options. And so helping people to understand, like, choose a couple different protein options, choose a couple different carb choices, and manipulate. Right.
So that you don't feel like you're having to force it and don't feel like you have to make it and eat it the same way every single time.
Right.
I literally eat the exact same thing every single day.
But
every year.
But majority of the population, they're not going to do that.
Right.
And that's okay.
But if you have a meal that you like, eat it.
And that's just it. Like, know how your macros work. Know how to...
Those macros are your fats, proteins, carbs.
Yes. And know your serving sizes. Because if you were to take peanut butter, buy the serving size, and you're going to slap it on a rice cake over here, just willy-nilly, and then you actually do a serving size over here.
And weigh your food.
Yes. So learn your macronutrients on how to count and weigh it and know what you're doing first.
We can do a macro 101.
Yeah. Right, where we're measuring it.
Yes.
And even talking about like what a macro is, because, we just said proteins, fats, and carbs, but I think there's
your nutrition label.
There's probably a majority of people who don't understand.
You have to learn how to read the nutrition label.
Our video on this one died.
That's okay.
Oh no,
that's fine.
That's okay.
So that's going to be number 1, nutrition label. And we can go over that at some other point in time. But that's going to be your number 1 key factor is knowing how to read it.
I think if we're just telling people, okay, if you are new to tracking, and we can talk macros a different time, but if you're new to tracking, just prioritize your protein. Get your protein in.
Yep.
Your 1 gram per your pound.
Yep.
And then just eat normal. And I almost guarantee your fat consumption is probably going to go down a little bit, and your carb consumption. People are probably overeating their carbs.
Yeah.
But when you naturally get your protein at the amount that you need to, you're fuller longer.
Yes.
And so, I think that takes some of that overwhelm feelings. Just hit your protein. And when you get that down, then we can come back to your carbs and your protein.
Yes. And an easy way, too, for a protein, everyone thinks meal prepping is super hard. You can meal prep 1 or 2 days a week, depending on how long you can, or your chicken, stuff like that.
And that's another thing we could get into a different time, too, of getting into.
Do it in bulk. It's super, super easy. Whether Sunday's easy for some people, like you do Sunday, Wednesday, whatever. Make it in bulk. It's not hard. And again, that's where you can implement, do like a basic seasoning. Say you want one type of chicken on one day, you don't have to eat that same type because you can change your seasoning, you can change your sauce throughout the week, and you can just pull it from a big container. It's super easy.
I meal prep for my daughter for her lunches every week. I don't meal prep for myself, but
you don't have to.
But that's what we do.
Right away. You can keep it in a big container, and then the night before or the morning of, depending on how your schedule works, you can pull that day's food, take it with you. It's super easy. It doesn't have to be as complicated as people are making it.
I'm sure you guys have too, just frozen additional ones, so that way no matter what, there's always reserve.
Yes.
And it keeps you from getting fast food.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll have to hit on a episode where we talk about, kind of some tips and tricks with meal prep and what's worked, what hasn't. And I feel like that could be its whole
Yes, definitely. And just our time sakes too, so we're going to kind of rush here at the end just because we ramble. Sorry, not sorry. But with the sustainability, and so again, your nutrition is going to be number one, I would say, with making
you cannot train bad nutrition.
No. But another thing too, so to prevent, that where you're losing muscle and you're putting yourself in a worse position is no matter where you are at in your dieting phase, do some sort of strength training. Cardio should not be your number one. Cardio should be a supplement that you add, in my opinion, I guess. Mm-hmm. And a good... So cardio burns calories while you're doing it. Strength training burns calories while you're doing it, as well as throughout the day. The more muscle you have, the more calories you burn. Just sitting here doing nothing. The higher the metabolism,
the more you can eat.
Exactly. Right. It's kind of like, you guys keep going.
But yeah, so you want to keep the muscle on, keep adding muscle. So like we just said, make sure you're lifting weights, and it doesn't have to be super, super heavy to start out with. And if you don't have weights, you don't have the ability to get weights, even doing some type of just body movement. So you can do air squats, you can do push-ups, you can do planks, you can do dips using a kitchen chair or whatever.
Just mobility work.
Yes, invest, or I had this a lot when I was pregnant. Invest in some type of mobility bands, the stretch bands. Those are fantastic. Gives you a little bit of resistance. But the main thing is we want to make sure that to be sustainable and to have a good, long-term result, etc. Let's make sure that we are putting on muscle and forcing our body to save and preserve that muscle rather than
losing it. Yes. Because if you do too much cardio and little strength training, you're gonna lose your muscle, and with that, in turn, you're gonna lose longevity of life. If you pack on muscle, not saying pack on, I guess. If you strength train, it's going to promote the longevity of your life. And when you're older, you want to be able to get down on the ground and play with your grandchildren and get back up with ease. You're going to be able to get stuff off the top shelf easily. It's not just for bodybuilders. It's for everybody. And I recommend it for everybody.
No matter the age. Make sure, and no matter what you're doing for your version of dieting or weight loss or whatever, strength training should be, one of the foundation blocks with your nutrition, which you said make sure you're hitting your protein, good quality sources of protein, and get that strength training. It doesn't have to be in a gym. You can invest in stuff that you can do super easy at home, even just body weight stuff, but force your body to maintain and preserve that muscle, and I guarantee you're going to have that quote toned look that you want, and your body, your mind, everything is just going to thank you to be a lot happier.
Mm-hmm. And stay consistent, because when Sadie says toned, it takes a long time to grow muscle. I have been doing this for 11 years, and I will preach and preach and preach. I am still not big. I am still small.
And
keep that in mind. And I train every day. I don't take rest days. I do not, because I don't need rest days. My splits don't account for rest days. I don't need them. I don't want them.
But and here's the thing too. So with that, everyone thinks that you have to do. Some people go every day. Some people don't. Make a realistic goal. Don't set your goal out to be 5 days a week, 7 days a week, whatever. If you're just starting, or even if you have a super busy lifestyle schedule, whatever, set a realistic goal where you're doing, a whole body type thing 2 to 3 days a week, and that's going to be so much better than hitting a single body part 1 day a week, or going for 5 to 7 days for 3 weeks and then quitting. Set a realistic goal 2 to 3 days a week and make that an addition to your life. And
especially when it comes with weight loss. Like,
you're gonna be
people say they want to lose 20 pounds in a month. That ain't gonna happen. No.
Yeah.
So
not healthily anyway.
Yeah,
I don't think,
no.
But
like Sadie said, realistic goals. Mm-hmm. Like just making it to the gym 2 or 3 times a week. That's a realistic goal. That's attainable.
Right. Or if you can't, like, there's a lot of days I can't. I'm lucky enough. I have a pretty decent gym, squat rack, free weight, stuff like that in
Decent?
my home. What?
I thought you were talking about my gym.
No. Oh, no. In my home.
I was like, gosh, that's a stab in the fucking heart.
No,
freaking.
So on the days that I'm not able to make it to an actual gym, I've invested in myself and my family and stuff like that. And we have stuff in our home. Like, because you don't have to have a full weight set. Get some resistance bands. Those are fantastic. Especially if you're just starting. You can do so much with resistance bands.
Especially if you live here in Iowa and you get
yes.
a blizzard in the middle of the week.
Yes.
With a thunderstorm.
No yes.
Okay, I'm back.
Duncan just stepped out. She bailed on us, but she's
back. Yes.
But anyway, so for the sake of time, because we're getting up on our hour mark, and there's a lot of these topics that we will go more in depth with, but sustainability, number one takeaways that we want you guys to keep is pick some protein sources that you like, make them in bulk, change them up how you eat them, whether you add different seasoning, different sauces, but make sure you're hitting your protein that's going to be something that's really going to help you long term, internally, hormone, just health, everything wise, and strength train. Whether you get some resistance bands, you do some stuff at home, you make it to the gym, something like that, but force your body to preserve that muscle and build muscle, and you're going to be a lot better long term. You're going to look better, feel better, all those things. So, main sustainability, good nutrition, use it as, a lifestyle change. You're not just, don't take Ozempic and eat McDonald's and act like you don't have to change your lifestyle, because you're not going to look the way you want to look. Guarantee it.
Amen.
Use it for a tool. Using these tools, hit your protein, lift some weights, and you're going to like
live longer.
Yes,
live longer. We'll have to touch on, too, a different podcast, too, because I could see people being like, I don't know what to do when I get to the gym. So we will go over that at some point.
Yes. But, all right, so we're going to end this one. Awesome. Sweet. Thank you guys for the next episode. I have no idea what we're going to talk about, but it'll be something
awesome
with lots of sidetracks and rambling. So subscribe, all that fun stuff. Thank you guys.
Bye.